my name is Hope and welcome back to my channel. I like musicals, they're a big part of my life, and today we're going to be talking about the fact that Company may have taken over Heathers as my favourite musical. Now, I feel like I should start talking about why Heathers has become less of a favourite musical. I haven't actually decided if it has yet, but this is kind of a video to help me figure that out. So, first of all, I was meant to see Heathers last October. Last October, and obviously because of the whole thing, it got postponed, and it got postponed to in like 3 weeks time, and now it's been postponed again. So I've not been wanting to listen to Heathers a lot because it just irritates me because I can't watch the show like I was meant to. There's also the fact that I feel like nowadays I say Heathers is my favourite musical for the sake of me saying that I have a favourite musical. Because Heathers has been my favourite show since I was in year 8, so that's like when I was 13 years old, and I'm almost 18 now. So it's been a very near and dear show to me for such a long time. I think it was difficult for me to actually say why this isn't my favourite show anymore. And it's not that I don't like it anymore, it's not that I've grown out of it, it's just that I've started to realise that there are kinds of shows that I like more, other shows which I don't necessarily like less, but aren't the kinds of shows that are the shows that are my favourites. Now, Heathers is a great show, and I more than definitely still want to play Veronica Sawyer at some point in my life. Her songs are immense, and the show as a whole I just think is really great. Every time I go back to watching it or listening to the songs, I am reminded about why I like this show so much, and the really dynamic way it portrays this like school life, if that makes sense. I have known this show for so long, and I think that the off-Broadway production will probably always be my favourite, and I think that was another reason that I wasn't the biggest fan of the West End production. Now, the West End production wasn't bad. It wasn't bad by any means, but obviously when you're a big fan of something for a long time, it's really difficult to go into something with an objective view. And there were just certain casting choices and certain show choices that personally I didn't think were the best for that show. There are some people in it that I thought was great. Olivia Moore, love her. Jamie Moscato as well, I think is very, very well suited to the role of JD. But the show as a whole just didn't resonate with me as much as the off-Broadway production did. And I think they were going for very different things, and I think what they were going for just wasn't really aimed towards me. And for that reason, I think that's why I'm so divisive about whether Heathers is or isn't my favourite musical, because over the years I've started realising more and more things that I don't really like about it. And obviously my favourite show, or anyone's favourite show, isn't going to be perfect. I think it's very difficult to find a perfect show, but with that, a show that has more and more infections then by that logic would become less of a favourite musical. Hopefully that makes sense. But let me get on to talking about Company, because that's really what I want to talk about. So, Company is a show I discovered not really that long ago. I've known it for less than a year. I have watched the Neil Patrick Harris version of it. I know that he didn't direct it or anything, but he plays Bobby, who is the main character, who is also, given the fact that it can be a 35-year-old man or woman, I have never related more to any character in my life. Bobby, I think, depending on the person who played them, can show so many different sides to so many different people. Because in the most recent productions of Company, the Broadway production, the brand new one, and the West End production, Bobby is played by women, Katrina Lenk and Rosalie Craig. And I think it brings a whole new dynamic to the show, because you see Rosalie, Katrina, then Neil Patrick Harris, people like Raul Esparza, and I think it's Dean Jones was one of the originals. These people, they all have a different Bobby, but they all feel the same, and I think that's so interesting. Another thing I love about the show is that gender doesn't matter. Obviously, with Bobby, they have changed the gender, and it doesn't really change anything in the show. Whereas the thing that they did change is they swap all the genders. In my personal opinion, I think you could change any genders of of any of the people and the show would still be pretty much exactly the same. I think a couple of songs like Have I Got a Girl For You would probably have to change slightly just for the context of it being men, women, or a mix of the two, or, you know, other genders like non-binary too. I think you would just have to make slight adjustments, but for the show as a whole, it would stay exactly the same. Now, given the fact that this show was written in 1970, I think says a lot about its kind of timeless nature. So this show is so popular, but I think underrated by a lot of the younger generations because it's an older musical. But to me, it really doesn't feel like it. I watch Company and I can still apply it to now. I can apply it to 1970, apply it to 2000s, I can apply it to now. And I think that's one amazing thing, that although the show has gone under revisions, like Marry Me a Little, which is a song in the show, became the Act 1 closer not that long ago, and the finale has been changed quite a few times. The show as a whole and its concept and its themes have virtually stayed the exact same because obviously it's still the same show. And at the time Company was released, it was revolutionary as a musical. Company was the first concept musical where the musical had a story but not a plot. Now, a lot of people can compare this to things like Cats or Songs for a New World, for example. Songs for a New World is a revue musical. There is no story. It is individual things trying to convey sometimes the same but also sometimes different messages. And things like Cats are aiming to have a kind of story. There is meant to be some sort of plot there, but it really lacks in kind of both and it becomes this weird middle ground. And I mean, we're not here to talk about Cats because I don't like cats, but anyway, Company is a show where the story is about 35-year-old Bobby, a lost man. I'm just going to say man because production I've seen is a man, but it can be any gender. It's about a 35-year-old man who is lost. He doesn't know what he wants. He doesn't know when he wants it. He is very much a middleman in his own world. The story is not told in chronological order and is little episodes of his life with his friends, most of which are married people. Now, throughout the play, we see all of these relationships change within these marriages, but it's all centered around Bobby. And I think that's something really interesting because he gives this outsider view on all of these different relationships while trying to find his own relationships. And when it gets to the point when he finally understands what he wants, he can't have it because he spent so long having it and trying to figure it out that those people have moved on. Bobby is such a dynamic character and I think one of the best developed ever. I wouldn't say every single character you know like the back of your hand, but Bobby is so well fleshed out that you understand everything that he's going through despite only knowing him for 2 hours. The musical itself is also very powerful, with Bobby's final moments truly understanding what he wants and being okay with that. He loses and gains so much without really ever understanding where his life is going, and when he finally figures it out, that's the end. So we never see what happens to Bobby and his future. It's up to an audience's interpretation, but all we know is that Bobby is happy and ready for whatever comes next. I feel like I've talked a lot about the story, but not a lot about the actual musical side of the show. Now, it's a relatively small cast with, I think, like 12 people, 12 characters, and like 4 to 6 ensemble members. So there is really not a lot of characters to see, and they're all from different age groups and they all have different vocal styles. So in the production I've seen, Patti LuPone, who is an icon, we all know her, she has her own song which is called The Ladies Who Lunch, and her song is also very cynical because it's her take on the way rich women act and the way rich women believe that buying everything is the cure to all your problems and how they're overrated within society basically. And Patti does give a very powerful performance then because it shows her frustration with it. She is herself in the show a wealthy woman. She has a husband and kind of doesn't really care about anyone else but herself, but she still, and Sondheim himself, shows how like people who are of those classes can still criticize them, and it is a message on social class and the way it affects society. And there's a lot more of this, and not just with like classism and things, but just with like relationships as a whole. I would say the two most well-known songs in Company are Being Alive and Getting Married Today. So Being Alive is the climax, I would say, of the show. It's when Bobby realizes he wants love because he feels like he needs it. It's very hard to explain if you've not seen the show, but oh my god, just please go watch it. You can find it online. It's so good. But Being Alive is such a turning point for Bobby, and it's really significant within the show itself. But then Getting Married Today is probably the one that's shown in media the most. So Getting Married Today, you might know from Glee. That's probably the most well-known place you might know it from. It's sang by Emma when she's about to get married to Will. It's very fast as well, and a very fun song to sing. And I just think that the music is of so many different styles to represent all the different relationships. So for example, with Amy, who sings Getting Married Today, she is very afraid, so she speaks very quickly because she's like, I'm not sure if I'm ready to get married to Paul. But then you have Bobby, who sings Being Alive, which is his climax, which is typically kind of slow, but then can get a little bit faster, showing his wait for anticipation. But then earlier in the thing, he also sings Someone is Waiting because he's waiting, and so it's very, very slow. And I just think that Stephen Sondheim is such a talented man, and all of the songs are absolutely brilliant, and you should just go listen to them like I'm telling you. And I think even with songs like Side by Side by Side, which is my favourite song, or Company, you have this running motif of like the different harmonies in the different song, like beginnings of the songs that sing. It's actually very reminiscent of Into the Woods, like the beginning when they're all overlapping. They do that a lot with Bobby's Name, and I just think that tonally this show just gives so much but feels like so little. Like on a surface level, Company just feels like a show, this one-dimensional show with this very basic plot and just like scenes from a TV show without really any context. But the more you think about it after you've watched it, the more you realise, oh my god, there are so many layers to this and this character of Bobby. And I think that's what makes it so amazing, and I think that's why it might be my new favourite musical. Is it my new favourite musical? I feel like I'm talking about it like it's my new favourite musical because I just spoke for about 10 minutes in just straight passion and awe of this wonderful, wonderful show. But I think that's all I really have to say. Can you write in the comments if you think that it is my favourite musical? Because I'm still not entirely sure. I can just talk about musicals for a long time anyway, so who actually knows at this point? But if you're still here, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to me rant about Company for 10 minutes because honestly I needed to do that. But thank you so much for watching. Like it if you liked it, subscribe if you feel like it. Keep enjoying musicals as much as me, and I'll see you in the next one.